Ooh, tips for first time home buying. Um, don't buy too much house. So here's a perfect example. I got this house and it is too much house. It was too much house back then. I mean, there's two schools of thought. Here's what I'll say. For your first house, if I could do it again, this was too much house. When I bought this house, um, I was married. So like it was two incomes that were needed in order to get this house. And then I was divorced and I had this house. And you know, like when I got this house, I didn't want to get this house because it was too expensive. It was too expensive and I knew it. And this is where I talk about it's important to, for me, I won't go through this again. So I have a clear sense if somebody is financially unequally yoked to me, I won't date somebody where I feel like there's going to be all this confusion over money. I just won't do it. I just won't do it anymore because I can remember feeling like we can't afford this house, but I allowed my husband to like we know we want this house. We want this house. I'm like, we can't afford this house. We can't afford this. This house is too much house. We cannot afford it. And it was difficult because we really couldn't afford it. So firstly, we couldn't afford to furnish it. So like we got it and then we couldn't even furnish it for a long, long time. And that's not a big deal, but it's something. It's not a big deal, but it's something. The other thing was I ended up not saying that I didn't want to get pregnant, but I ended up getting pregnant, but it wasn't like a healthy pregnancy. So it was a mess because I had to stop working while I was pregnant. And like we could have lost the house dealing with all of that, because I made more money. So that was immensely stressful for me. On top of like having a difficult pregnancy, that was like immensely stressful. And it goes back to the first decision. I had said like this is too much house for us. It's too expensive. We can't afford it. Even if the bank will give us a loan for it. And that is rule number 1. The bank wants to give you a crazy loan. You don't necessarily want to spend as much as they can give you because they don't care if you default on that house. They're going to get the collateral. They're going to get the house. If you don't pay on it, they're going to get the house. They'll just resell it and then make all the money that you gave them plus the next money again. So they don't care if you can't afford it. They're willing to give you some crazy amount of loan money. They'll do that, especially if you got good credit. So I just say it's there's a such thing of being cash poor when it comes to houses. By the way, Mr. Michael, you should follow my other channel, Makeup and Money. It's Montana Cash on YouTube. You should follow that channel. I do makeup over there, but I talk about money. It's primarily a money channel, so you would probably like that channel. Anybody else who wants to be on the that channel, it's YouTube at Montana Cash, CACHE. That's actually a money channel that I have, but I actually do makeup. So, but you guys can go ahead and follow it over there. As I'm doing my makeup, I talk about money. That's the whole thing. Um, so, and I have a video that I'm supposed to be working on right now, but I haven't finished it. I need to like finish editing it and upload it over there. Um, and I can't go live over there right now because I don't have enough subscribers. So if you guys all go subscribe, then I can go. I can go live on that channel and I can talk to y'all about money. But I'll tell you this: it's very easy to buy too much house than what you can afford. That's number 1, and that is very unwise. If you're married, just because you're married and you have double income, it doesn't mean that your house should reflect that you're buying for double income. That is pretty much the dumbest thing ever. Do you want to be in a neighborhood that's safe? Yes. Do you need the biggest house in the neighborhood? No. You don't need the house at the top of the hill. No, you don't need it. You don't. You don't need that. What you need is I would if I could do it again, like I wanted the house next door to me is what I wanted. I thought it'd be a little bit more affordable. And to be honest, there wasn't much difference between the price of that and the price of this. So really and truly, both of these houses were unaffordable. It just was too expensive. Um, I say don't be afraid of getting a starter home. That's number one thing I would say. You can get a smaller house, affordable. Just try to get something in plan to where if in 5 years you need to sell it or in 10 years you need to sell it, that it's going to be in a neighborhood that where you're not going to be upside down, where you're not going to end up where it doesn't appreciate. You want it to be where you're going to have enough ability to like flip the house. If the neighborhood is in the hood and you overpay for it, you're not going to have the right amount of value in it in order to flip the house and get out of it. You're going to be where you sell the house, it's worth less. You're going to still owe money on it and you're not going to make money on it. So it's got to be in a neighborhood. Location is the first thing. It's got to be in a neighborhood that is where the houses appreciate over time, meaning the value of the house is increasing over time, so that when you get ready to sell it, you're selling it more than what you bought it. If you're buying a house in the hood, you're going to go to sell it and the house is going to be maybe less than what you bought it. And if that happens, if the value goes down, there's going to be a big bucket of money you owe on it, even to get out of it. And if you need to get out of it because of a bad pregnancy, like me, or something like that, you can't get out of it. You're stuck in it and you're stuck pushing through. Financial problems can break a marriage. Is that simple? Financial problems can legit break a marriage, a good marriage, a healthy, happy marriage, a marriage where you're getting sex all the time. Financial problems can break a marriage. Financial problems can break a woman's respect for a husband. All of those things unravel so quickly. So number one thing is you don't need to get the biggest house. So I was right about that. I didn't need to get this big fancy house. But that being said, I grew into it. But when I tell you it was painful because I had to deal with a pregnancy where I couldn't work in this house, and good chance I could have foreclosed on this house, but by the grace of God, we didn't. And then I had to deal with being divorced and going from buying this house on 2 incomes, dependent on 2 incomes, to having to pay for this big old house with 1 income. That was not a joke. And it's the thing that changed the trajectory of the rest of my life. It's the reason why I never probably be able to slow down and meet someone and date and do the soft life thing, because I was thinking about, well, heck, how am I gonna pay for all these bills? Who's gonna pay all these bills? Nobody but me. Better get to work. So do you see where I'm saying? And it all started with one bad decision. And then the 2008 market crash happened, right? Once the market crash happened, I couldn't sell this house. This house wasn't worth anything. And it wasn't worth anything for a long time after. So I think step one is don't feel the need to buy what the loan mortgage officer offers you. If they offer you $300,000 loan, you do not have to go buy a $300,000 house. That is all in your head. They offer you a $300,000 loan, that's great. If you can find a house that's $75K, $100K, $120, $150, if you can find a house in a good neighborhood that is appreciating, the house is going to appreciate over time, that's a good buy. What you want is a deal that you buy low and it grows higher value over time, especially if it's a starter home and you know you're going to sell it. Now, you have to look at the 5-year bandwidth. Is that house going to even appreciate? Is it going to grow in value in 5 years? Most houses don't. Most houses don't grow in value in 5 years. It usually maybe after 5 years, it starts to grow in appreciation, meaning the value will increase after 5. Usually not before. So if you feel like you're going to have to sell it before the 5-year mark, you better have got that house stupid cheap, or maybe you know how to do the upgrades yourself. For me, I wasn't in good position to buy a house that wasn't move-in ready, because my husband at the time was working, I was working. We weren't going to be trying to upgrade a house. When you get an older house, there's 2 different risks here. And I could talk for a whole podcast on this. With a new house, you have to worry about the person who's checking the house to make sure that it is up to par with code. If they do something that's not up to par in code, the fallout's going to be something in the house is going to break. The good news with a newer home is it's probably going to be under warranty. So with a newer house, I always recommend that you use every bathroom, use every room, sleep in your rooms, use all the lights, use all the faucets, use all the bathrooms, fully use your home, even if it's a big one. I didn't do that. And here's what the story is. I think it was a couple of years after I bought the house. There were bathrooms I didn't even use because the house is bigger than what we needed. There's rooms that we didn't even use. The house is bigger than what we needed. So when I finally had house guests for Thanksgiving, in this very room, it was raining poop because people use the bathrooms. The bathroom wasn't built up to code. The pipes were built instead of angled down where all the stuff would drain. It was angled like this. So stuff, instead of draining, it was backing up. This pipe broke, and under this pipe was my den. Actually, legit right here. And it was raining poop in my house during Thanksgiving holiday after my warranty was over. So my rule is if you buy a new construction, you have to be prepared to use all the rooms, all the faucets, all the bathrooms. Use it, especially while it's under warranty, so that if it's not up to code and if the person who is monitoring the build of the house, if they miss it, at least you'll find out fast enough to where the warranty will still be there and you'll be able to call the builder and hold it against them, whatever. They'll come back and fix it or whatever. At least it's their fault. If you don't use those rooms and something breaks and it's out of warranty, like me, that piping is going to be on you to fix all that. So that's one. Or don't buy a house that's bigger than what you need. You don't have to worry about all that. Buy a small house that fits what you need. I think the old house. Now, an old house, what the risk is, and I just spoke to one of my friends who bought an old house, and this is what I was trying to avoid, and I did successfully avoid it. With an old house, let's see, I'm trying to fix this. With an old house, what happens is a lot of things are getting ready to break. You know, when you're getting near 20 years and 30 years on a house, it's not surprising that hot water heater goes out. That's $1,500. Be ready for this. These are real things that happen as you're paying your mortgage every month. Hot water heater breaks, that's $1,500. When your washer and dryer goes out, that you have to replace those. When your heater, like I had to replace like my furnace or something goes down, I had to replace my whole, my house is old now. I had to replace the whole heater, air conditioner thing, the whole thing. That was that $8,000. I'm trying to remember now. You know, once a house gets 20 to 30 years old, you're going to be replacing a roof. That was $8,000. I mean, I could tell you off the top of my head how much these things cost because that's how much I paid. That's how much. And the pretty girl discount did not come in strong. Okay. Did not. It did not. I used to take my Mercedes and hide it whenever somebody had to come over to fix something because I didn't want them to see like, oh, she got a fancy car. Oh God, let's charge her more. By God's grace, I always had the money for it. But honestly, honest to God, I had my roof replaced when I was in Dallas. So like, you know, major things will happen on the house. Toilets will have the internal plumbing of the toilet will break. You'll have to replace the faucets at some point, like leaky faucets and little things. The guts of the toilet, you have to replace it. Otherwise, it'll do weird things. And that's not even counting like little upgrades when you want to make it nice. Like my flooring is something I upgraded. It's not exactly what I wanted. It looks good from far away. It's not exactly what I wanted, but you know, I did the best I could. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl trying to do these things, navigate these upgrading streets by myself. I did the best I could. It looks good from far away, but like closer up, I'm like, it's not exactly what I wanted, but you know, you live, you learn. I've learned a lot. Things like that, like all these little things happen. But one of my friends who just bought an old house, he bought the house and he went to go stand in the shower. He told me he's in the shower and he's like, I hear something. I hear something when I stay in the shower. I hear some squeakiness. It turns out that he had someone look at it under the shower. The wood or whatever that was under there was totally like rotted and really about to break all the way through so that he would have fallen through from second story to first story. It was ready to break through. That's what all that squeaking and noise was about. For me, my shower, once it got old, there was a squeaky sound and I just needed to replace, I think, the the head of the faucet had gone bad and it was making a whistle noise that drove me crazy. So if you're showering, you can't even relax because you hear a whistle. And I kept having people come look at it and they didn't know what it was. Um, Even dated a plumber and he didn't know what it was. So how useful is that? But finally, a kid, like an 18-year-old kid, came over here and was like, I think we just need to replace that thing. And when you replaced it, the whistling was finally gone after years. I was like, I've been living with that noise for years. You're the only one who could fix it. But like a lot of little things would break. That guy said all these little things broke on his house. And it was like this after this after this. So old houses have a lot of things that break. And you got to be ready financially to, you're going to have to front the money for that while you're still paying a mortgage, while you might be still paying a car note. So if you're about ready to buy a house, my thought is the first thing is try to, they qualify you for a house based on your debt to income ratio. Um, and debt to income ratio basically means like how many bills do you have versus your income. So like let's say you make 200K. If you make 200K, that sounds great. But what if you've got child support times 4? That's not so great. Now you don't have that much money left over. So 200K might become 100K right there, just like that. Then if you're going, okay, so now you're at 100K. Okay, that's still a good income. All right. So you got 100K, but you got a car note and you got a fancy car note. You got a nice little truck. Okay. Then you got insurance. Okay. Then you got student loans. Okay. Then you got, so it starts to add up. So then once you pay for all that, what do you really have left? Oh, you got about $30,000 left that cash out every year. That's not that much. See, now you got too much debt compared to your income. So they're looking to see, do you have to qualify you? They want you to have lower debt and high income, or even if you don't have high income, just lower debt. So best that you don't have a bunch of credit cards, don't have a big fancy car. If you can, ideally get your car. If you have a car, don't buy a fancy car, get it paid off. And then don't buy another car right before you're trying to buy a house. Because if you buy a new car and you've got a car note, it's going to work against you being able to buy a nice house. And you don't need a fancy car. It's a depreciating asset. It's a waste of money. You just get a car that works. You don't need a fancy car. When you're getting a fancy car, you should have tons of money saved up, emergency funds saved up. You should be like balling if you're getting a fancy car. Balling, legit balling. If you're not balling, don't get a fancy car. Just get a car you can pay off. Nobody cares about that. A real woman doesn't care about your car. She cares about your bank account. Like me, I don't get impressed by a fancy car. I'm like, no. If you know how to manage money, we're good. I don't care about your fancy car at all, as long as it's clean. So I would say that. So, and my actual thought is rather than buying a single family house, I would say avoid condominiums right now, because I've been reading a little bit on condominiums, how it's hard to sell them. And with homeowners association fees, it could be, those homeowner association fees can go up really high. Like I said, I could do a whole podcast on money. That's why I have a podcast on money. But your homeowner association fees can go up high, and that could be problematic. So problematic meaning like it might go up from $400 to $700 a year. That's a lot of money. And if those things double because maybe you've got a community pool and things like that, that's problematic. So you have to think about all of that. I would say condominiums are complicated because when you get ready to do, there are lots of rules around condominiums for doing upgrades and things like that. And if someone in that building does an upgrade that goes bad, it may affect your ability to sell. Also, when there's condominiums, there could be a limited number of people that are allowed to sell their condo at one time. So it may mean that you're just stuck in that condo and you can't sell it. So condos are tricky. It seems like a good idea, but when you're inside of one of those big fancy buildings, it could just be a mess. It could be like a real mess. I would stay away from condos right now. I would stay, especially if you're in Atlanta, those can be messy right now. I would say if you can get something where you have like if it's a single family home where there's like an in-law suite that's detached so that you can rent out part of that place, I think that's a good idea. I would stick to a property where you can rent part of it out, legitimately rent it out, because then you could have it as not just a house you live in, but it's an investment property, which is going to be different financially than just a single family home. If you can get like anything that's like that, if it's like a house with like two separate doors, a duplex, something like that, where you live in one side of it and you rent out the other side of it, that's a deal. Because think about it, if you ever come into hard times, like let's say you lost your job, God forbid, you know, but if anybody ever lost their job, or like you have a wife who, like me, got pregnant and got super sick, then if something goes wrong in your household, you legitimately have money still coming in from the tenant to help you pay your mortgage. So you're not as at risk for losing the whole thing. I would rather your first home be smaller and built like that, where you can always rent out a separate detached area or a separate doorway area where you don't interact with those people, but they live there. I'd rather you do that than just buy a big old house. We have to be smart. First houses don't need to be big old anyways. You're hardly going to be able to furnish it. Hardly. Because first house is legitimately like the biggest bill you've ever seen in your life. Is legitimately the biggest bill you've ever seen. And then once things start to break, or you have to order like a microwave, like I've had to replace the microwave twice. I've had to replace the dishwasher twice, the fridge twice, the washer and dryer like twice. That's just stuff that I'm looking at right now. I've had to replace that stuff twice. I've had to replace the hot water heater once. I've had to replace the roof once. I've had to replace the whole AC thingy once. I've had to like flush out the sewage thing, the septic tank once. You know, I've had to replace the floors and the carpet once. These are real bills. And I need to replace windows right now on the whole house. This is like not a joke. So this is a real bill. So and that's really the only thing I need to do is replace like the windows. But they need to be replaced. They really truly do. I've like done one window here and one window there, but I have not replaced the whole house of windows. So yeah, I mean, I would just say if you can get a place where you can rent out part of it, that's what you do. You don't need to get the biggest house that the bank wants to offer you. They're going to offer you more than what you need to buy. Buy less and buy according to where you can flip, meaning where the value is steadily increasing. If you're going to get a house in the hood, just know that you're probably not going to be able to sell it for what you paid for it, and you're going to take a loss there. Mentally be prepared. I'm going to probably take a loss on this house. So now you're thinking more like a renter and not like the homeowner thinks. Because a renter, as they pay every month, they're just losing the money. They're going to lose the money every month until they buy a house. So if you're going to buy a house that's in a bad neighborhood, then you're thinking, well, I just want something to call my own, even though when I sell it, I'm not going to break even. Know that you're not going to break even. And so you're ready for that, and you're just going to take the loss. Like, you know, that's what you have to think about. So I think if you get a house that's smaller than what you need initially, like all you need is like a 2-bedroom or, you know, 3, not that many square footage. It's not even about that. It's about the price that you pay. And you don't want a house that's going to have a ton of problems when you're a first time home buyer, unless you're super handy and you know how to fix all kind of things, which a lot of us are not super handy. But unless you're super handy, you don't want to get into that. That's going to be a mess. If you have to fix things as you're working to pay for the house, and then you're having all these weekend projects to fix things, you're going to be wiped out all the time. So I think getting a house that's move-in ready is always cool. You know, if it's move-in ready and you can manage it, that's always cool. You know, and that's what I think. But yeah, those are my tips for house buying. I could go on and on about that. House buying is a trip, but it's a blessing. It's totally a blessing. Les says no starter homes. You'll be in a starter neighborhood amongst people with starter salaries. So Les looks at that like he's worried about the value over time. He's worried about that, and rightfully so. I mean, that's a way of looking at it, but there is a balance because when you're renting, you're basically not getting any value out of renting. You're not. So if you're going to be renting, they can jack up the price on an apartment anytime they want. I've seen people do that where they're jacking the prices up overnight. That's messy too. So when I say starter home, I want to qualify starter home. When I say starter home, I don't mean in a bad neighborhood. I just mean don't get way crazy more than you can afford. Like when we got this house, I knew we couldn't afford this house. It's that simple. I knew we couldn't afford this house. This was too much house for us. And we would have been in trouble if I would have stayed home any longer than I stayed home. We would have been in trouble. So, and it was really hard for me when I got one income and managing this big old house. That's what you call cash poor. When most of your income that you make goes to your mortgage, that's not a good scenario. And a lot of people lose their homes with that process where they get a house and it's like 70% of their, of their cash money in every month that they get paid. 70% of their income goes to the house because their house is so expensive. That's kind of a risky situation to be in. It just is. So, I mean, if you're going to be buying in that scenario, you want to have as few bills as possible. Like you want a cheap car that runs well, that you don't pay any money on. That's what I'm saying. So if you're going to be 70% in paying on your mortgage every month, 70% of your cash that you get paid goes to your mortgage. If you're going to be that tight, that's very tight, number one. I don't recommend being that tight, but if you're going to be that tight, try not to have other bills. Try not to have a stupid car note, stupid levels of insurance, try not to have a whole bunch of other stuff. And the other thing is still try to make money, make enough to like put in your savings, because if you're not doing that while you're young, you're not preparing to retire. Like we got to get out the rat race at some point. We got to get out of it. But let's see. So starter home meaning don't spend as much as they give you to spend. That's what I mean by starter home. Like we could have gotten a house that was less than this. We could have gotten a house and spent probably $60,000 less and gotten a great quality house, been in a decent neighborhood. Or we could have spent like $40,000 less. I mean, at the time, we just spent too much money on this house. I'm just going to tell you, it was too much money. But, I grew into it. I had to. I had no choice. Either I had to like sell it and give it up, which thinking about it, I don't know. I mean, that would have been a solution to the problem. I could have just sold it and then gotten an apartment and then saved up and then started again. I just struggled through it and then I got to the other side of it. I mean, that would have been a way to do it. I didn't choose that way. It worked out for me. You gotta do what you gotta do. Somebody said, I don't mind if there's rooms I don't use often. I'm okay with that. Unless you make money. So I know you're okay with that.